Last month, I gave a lecture at a major university about archaeological evidence and biblical narratives. Halfway through, a professor stood up and said, "Dr. Harrison, you've just demolished everything I learned in Sunday school." But here's what happened next, and why this research actually strengthens rather than weakens faith. I'm Dr. Michael Harrison, and I want to share how archaeological evidence transforms our understanding of familiar biblical stories. The results, what's the say? Take the Exodus narrative, the foundational story of Hebrew identity. Despite extensive archaeological excavations across Egypt and the Sinai Peninsula, researchers have uncovered no material evidence supporting the account of 600,000 Hebrew families wandering the desert for 40 years. The archaeological record suggests a different story entirely. Instead of foreign invasion, we see gradual cultural transition within existing Canaanite settlements. The pottery, architecture, and material culture show continuity, not replacement. The Israelites weren't conquering outsiders. They were Canaanites who gradually developed distinct identity and religious practices. The professor's concern was understandable. If the archaeological evidence contradicts Sunday school narratives, what does that mean for faith? But here's what I explained. This discovery doesn't diminish the Exodus story's power. It reveals how communities create foundational narratives that provide meaning, hope, and identity. The story's significance lies not in its historical accuracy, but in its ability to inspire resilience, moral purpose, and connection to transcendent meaning across generations. The Exodus narrative functions as what scholars call founding mythology, stories that create identity and meaning regardless of their historical precision. The David and Solomon narratives present similar challenges. The archaeological record shows no evidence of a unified kingdom or the massive building projects described in biblical texts. Instead, we find small-scale settlements and limited material culture that suggest a much more modest political reality. But here's what's fascinating. The biblical editors knew they were crafting idealized accounts. They preserved multiple, often contradictory versions of the same events. They created what I call an editorial miracle. A text that could inspire hope and provide identity while acknowledging the complexity of historical reality. This approach actually makes the Bible more remarkable, not less. Rather than being a simple historical chronicle, it's a sophisticated, theological, and literary achievement that has provided meaning and guidance for thousands of years, precisely because it transcends literal historical accuracy. The archaeological evidence for goddess worship provides another example. The thousands of female figurines found in Israelite homes, the inscriptions referring to Yahweh and his Asherah, and the persistent condemnation of goddess worship in biblical texts all point to the same reality. Polytheistic practices continued for centuries alongside developing monotheism. This discovery doesn't undermine monotheism. It reveals how human communities actively work to create unified meaning systems from diverse religious heritage. The transition from polytheism to monotheism represents one of humanity's most profound theological developments, and understanding how it actually happened makes it more remarkable, not less. After my lecture, the professor approached me privately. "I was wrong," he said. "This research doesn't demolish Sunday school faith. It reveals how much more sophisticated and resilient religious traditions actually are. Understanding how these stories function doesn't diminish their power, it helps us appreciate their true genius." What emerged from our conversation was a new appreciation for religious traditions as living, adaptive systems that help communities navigate existential challenges. The archaeological evidence shows that religion isn't passive reception of divine revelation, but active construction of meaning that evolves to meet changing needs while maintaining connection to transcendent purpose. This understanding transforms how we read biblical narratives. Instead of demanding literal historical accuracy, we can appreciate their function as meaning-making systems that have provided hope, identity, and moral guidance for thousands of years. The same creative forces that enabled these ancient stories to inspire and guide continue to operate today. Religious communities continue to adapt ancient wisdom to contemporary challenges while maintaining connections to transcendent meaning. Understanding this process doesn't threaten faith. It reveals how religious traditions have always been living, evolving systems that help people find meaning in an uncertain world. The archaeological evidence shows that this has been religion's strength throughout history. Ready to explore how archaeological discoveries enhance rather than threaten understanding of biblical narratives? The Warrior God reveals the complete analysis. Get your copy today through the link in the description.